Okay, it's the end of the session. This is Zoe and this is Lola, and Lola's not happy to be in my lap, but it looks better with the dogs in the video, and this is the roadmap to success. So we worked with primarily with Lola, but and she got a lot of bully sticks. But basically, both dogs have some issues. Now, she is really Lola here on my right, camera's left. She is not like people moving around. She likes to bite people's ankles, as we saw in the video above. Zoe here doesn't like her getting out of balance, and so she goes and corrects Layla. So you have two dogs that are kind of working at cross purposes. So it's very common when you have multiple dogs to just try to work with them together. It is always going to be faster if you work with them separately. So I'm going to start kind of the end of the session and work my way backwards. At the end of the session, I went over a focus exercise. Now, all these videos are going to be available on my website. I didn't film a video of the focus here, but I've got hundreds of videos on my website of the focus exercise. So to find any of these videos, just go to doggoneproblems.com, click on dog training tips. If you're looking at a desktop, on the right side of the page, there's a search box. If you're on your phone, it'll be at the bottom of the page. Maybe a second one from the bottom. The bottom one is our mailing list. So you can just search for focus, and a bunch of videos will come up to show you how to do it. Now for the focus exercise, remember, you want to get within 7 days all over the house to that 15-second on the second movement. But don't practice just here. Practice there, in the kitchen, in the dining room, all over the place. And keep on doing that until you get to that within 7 days, that 15-second movement, second delay on the second movement. The next stage is to go out in your courtyard when nobody is out there. And then we go back to 1 second, 1 second. So 1 second to your nose. Are you trying to escape? Yes, you are. You're a bit of a stinker, aren't you? Yeah, she's like, yeah, I'm good looking and I want to get away. That lick lip is also an indication that she's a little bit stressed. So I'm not petting them because she's stressed. Remember, anything your dogs are doing when you pet them is what you're going to be reinforcing. So if your dog is stressed, she's a little bit stressed, but she's not too bad. I'm just laying my hands on her. That can be comforting for dogs. So the idea is first in the house in all sorts of different places, get to that 15-second on the second movement on the focus exercise. Then we go outside and we go back to 1 second, 1 second. 1 second to raise it from our knee to our nose, 1 second from our nose to the dog's mouth. And you say the word focus, not just for this, but any command, anytime you're treating your dog, the command word should be said after the treat goes in their name and their mouth, and just the command word, not good focus, just focus. And not focus. Remember, they hear pronunciation. So outside, you should be able to get back to that 15-second focus within about 2 to 3 days. Try to practice this with about 12 treats each time, and try to practice each one of you maybe with each dog 2 or 3 times a day. It's pretty short and pretty easy. And then once you get to the point where you're 15 seconds out in the courtyard, then you want to walk them separately. And when you're walking and there's nobody around, now we're going to trigger the verbal response. And we're going to say focus. The dog looks up at us. And we're going to raise the nose to the treat to our nose and go straight line towards their head. And again, we're going back to 1 second, 1 second. But eventually you want to get to the point where you're on a walk and there's no distractions, nobody around. You say focus, she looks up at you, and you take 15 seconds to go from your nose to her mouth, and she's like running into stuff because she's not paying attention where she's going. That's the whole point, is focusing on the human. At that point, once you get to that point, then when you're on a walk and you see a dog turn around the corner and you know it's a dog she's going to react to, you say focus, she looks up at you, and you can either move her out of the path of that dog that's approaching you, or you can try to give her the focus command and walk maybe on the lawn so there's a little bit of distance between you and the dog, but you're walking towards them. If you're walking down the sidewalk and the other dog's walking right towards you, the dogs are like, you're walking me to doom. We're thinking we're just going to walk past that dog, but your dog doesn't see it that way. You're taking me right into danger. So whenever your dog is reacting, the best thing you can do is increase distance between the dog and whatever it's reacting to. And often if they're really worked up, you have to go beyond line of sight, around a car, around a shrub or something like that. But don't try to rationalize with them. Don't try to talk to them. Just immediately move them away. Try to do it without picking them up. For dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. So if your dog is reacting, you pick it up, you're actually rewarding your dog. Now, in some situations, you may have to do that, but you want to try to avoid that. Okay, now that we got the end of the session, let's go back to the beginning. So we started off by talking about exercise. The guardians here do a good job of exercising the dogs. I got a little bit of a nose scratch. So you're going to escape. So basically, I showed them how they can use a laser. Some dogs, it's a healthy way. These dogs, it seems okay. Some dogs you shouldn't use a laser for, but these guys are okay. Remember, never put it in their eyes. Don't ever let them look at the pen, and also kind of make it realistic movements. I see people zoom it around so fast the dog just loses interest because it's not realistic motion. Also, if the dog's scratching it like the painting or whatever she's scratching it before, leave it here on the table and just zoom the dog away from it. That's a great way to redirect the dog's attention. So exercising before walks will help have a more productive walk with a laser for a couple minutes and then take them for a walk. Or when we have guests come over, the laser is a great way to run around the apartment and get 5 or 10 minutes worth of exercise out. Probably like 3 to 5 minutes would be sufficient for these guys. So as your friends, when you're coming over, when you get off the freeway, let me know, and then just start doing it. You want your dog to ideally have about 10 minutes after the exercise ends before your friends come over. Oh, wow. Your dog's nails, the dew claw here is too long, and I've had a number of clients, people don't realize the nail, if it gets too long, it can split down the axis, and sometimes you have to amputate the nail, and that is permanent, and it is a surgery. And the dew claws start going around kind of like a snail, and it'll grow back into it and become ingrown. So, and the longer dogs have quick, it's harder for her because she has black nails. She might have some translucent ones, but I prefer using a Dremel. I also have videos on my website on how to use Dremel. You can use it every couple of days. It's like a drill. It's kind of like an emery file on a drill bit, and so you can actually get the nails not soft but rounded, so they don't give the scrape marks if the dog scratches at you. But beyond that, because I've had so many people didn't realize the nail can get cracked and have to be amputated. Okay, so the next thing we went over are rules. I'm going to go through these really quickly. I have videos on rules, and you can always call me any questions you have on these. Rule number 1, not being allowed on the furniture for at least 66 days, or as long as the problem is still going on. But all people hear is you said 66 days. So as long as this is still going on, then no furniture. Once you get to the point where there's sounds outside, she's no longer thinking she's the guard dog, then you can start breaking the rule on occasion. It should be a reward and only for good behavior. So if you invite Layla on the furniture and she starts growling at Zooey here, Layla would have to get down. Just make sure you don't push her towards Zooey because that might precipitate a fight. Or if she gets on the couch and she goes down to get a drink of water, when she comes back, she needs another invitation to get back on the couch because it's your couch and you're just being nice and sharing it with her. Other rules, right now they're free fed. I suggest the Guardians go to a structured feeding. That's the video that you would search for, is structured feeding. But basically you put the food down, you use the escalating consequences that I went over. Maybe, do you feed them in the kitchen?
I have it in the bedroom.
Okay. So maybe they're not allowed to be in the bedroom. You put the food down first. Make sure you bring your snack. Remember, all you have to do is eat 5 more bites. It'd be better if you can eat an actual meal. That's not always realistic. Don't change their schedule for you. Just grab a chip, a cracker, a piece of carrot, celery, something like that. Eat it in 5 or more bites. Then I would probably invite Layla over first, unless Layla's kept on trying to violate the boundary. Now, the boundary is the doorway, so no dogs cannot cross that threshold at all. So if they do, use those escalating consequences. Hiss at them, stand up, probably already be standing, so march at them. But don't let them cross into it, because they're going to probe over and over and over again. Your job is to enforce the limit. Their job is to test you. So after they stop testing, then I would eat your chip or cracker or whatever it is in 5 or more bites. Hang on, Zooey, we're almost done. And then invite Layla over. And Layla's going to probably come in and be like, I eat whatever I want. What the hell do you think you're talking about? And as soon as she walks away, pick up her bowl, have a Tupperware or the bag in there, dump her bowl empty, and then put the empty bowl back on the ground. It's important to have the empty bowl back on the ground. Right now, I think they share a food bowl, but I'd like the Guardians to have separate bowls. And don't put them right next to each other. Kind of keep them a couple feet apart. So once she's done and she's dumped the bowl, you dump the bowl, she'll come and lick the empty bowl. As soon as she licks it, she has to leave the room. So while you're doing this, Zooey's not allowed to be in the bedroom. So Zooey sees that you're acting like a leader by blocking her from accessing it. Now, at first, she's not going to want to do it because they're both used to eating when they want. But eventually, it's going to change, and they're going to try to come in. You have to enforce and hold the line. So eventually, Layla sees when I'm eating, they're keeping Zooey off my back. So I don't have to worry about eating. Because if Zooey comes in and stands next to Layla, let's try to intimidate Layla and try to take Layla's food. And that'll become more of a prized resource once you go to structured feeding. You're trading one thing for another, but I really like the benefit of the dog seeing you eat first and you control and have dominance or dominion, over the feeding ritual. After a while, it becomes a powerful way that reinforces your leadership every time you feed your dogs. So once she gets done eating, she leaves, and then Zooey comes in. And Zooey gets a chance to eat her food. Yes, I'll give you a little pet under the chin, sweetheart. And so when if she takes her first bite of food, she's on the clock. She has 2 minutes max. If she's still eating at 2 minutes, if they're a slow eater, you can pick it up and dump it. I don't think that's a problem for these guys. But as soon as she walks away, pick up any remaining food in the bowl, dump it empty, and put the bowl back down. And at that point, both dogs can come back in and lick each other's bowls, which they probably will. Now, let's say that Layla, who's normally going to eat first because she's the older dog, is being a pill, and she keeps on trying to cross the line. Well, then she might lose that privilege, and we might feed Zooey first that day. And so you want to reward the dogs based on the behavior or what you're looking for, not just arbitrarily because she's older or whatever it is. We're paying based on performance. Other rules would be, I would suggest that when remember for the couch to get the X mats, you probably have to spend about $75 to get them, but it just makes it easier. When you get up, just grab it under the couch, unfold it, put it on the cushion, go to the bathroom. When you come back, fold it up and put it back down. So that way it's a placeholder. Also, no more watching the guardians go pee. Right now the dogs follow them everywhere, especially Layla. Especially Zooey is one of the guardian's shadows. And so she doesn't have any practice being alone, and that can lead to separation anxiety, which is essentially a panic attack. I've seen dogs destroy wood or electronics, electrocute themselves because they're just freaking out trying to get to with their guardians. So you need to help them practice being alone. A great way to do that is teach them to stay, and then go to the bathroom and come back and release. Stay, go get a drink of water, come back and release. So that way they practice being alone, but in the easiest capacity. You're still in the place, you're just not next to them or touching them. All right, so feeding is a really important one. When the guardians are in here, in this room, there's a kind of a carpet or area rug around the couch, and there's a table in front. So if you're eating here, the dog should not be allowed on the carpet. They can be anywhere else, just not on the carpet. When you're done eating, then they can come and go as they please. But make sure you enforce it using those escalating consequences. Remember to also set up practice sessions. So microwave a piece of bacon or roast beef. Pretend eat with your Chipotle burrito or whatever it is off to the side. And as soon as the dog comes in, you correct. And you keep on going back and forth until the dog sits or lies down outside the boundary. Then you can put the roast beef or the bacon away and eat your actual burrito. They are now warmed up. Another rule, not allowed in the kitchen when you're preparing food. I would no longer use the same principles that we went over here. Stop giving them people food. If you want to give them people food, give them raw people food, like raw chicken uncooked. If you eat some steak or something, you want to give it to them because you just want to throw it away, put it in the microwave, let it sit there overnight, and feed it to them at breakfast. But you don't want them to smell the food that comes from your plate. It's just confusing for them, and it creates some problems. Also, when it comes to food, the temperature of the food is more important than the taste. The smell is the most important. So they prefer warm food. All right, let's see what else. We also went other rules. Shouldn't be allowed to go through the door ahead of you. The guardian already hired another trainer. I'm not a trainer, but to explain that they shouldn't be able to walk in front of you. Now, what I do is I let them sniff as we're walking, but I don't let them stop and sniff. If they stop and sniff and you stop, then they're controlling the walk. So what I do is each walk, I pick a section of the walk where I'm going to give the dog a 1-minute free zone. I give the dog extra leash, and it can roll around, it can sniff, it can do whatever it wants to do for that 1 minute, and then we go back to the short leash. So each walk, they get a little bit of stimulation, a little bit of fun time, kind of like you eat your meat, you eat a little pudding. All right. There's something I was going to go over for the food, and it will come back to me. All right. We also talked about petting with a purpose. These dogs both, they come up and kind of tell their guardians what to do at times, and sometimes I think the guardians, like most people, infrequently probably reach over and pet them a little bit when they nudge or whatever. She growls at people if they don't pet her. Definitely should not be petting if that's the case, because that's rewarding that behavior. But what we're going to do for petting with a purpose is if the dog comes and nudges us, paws at us, barks at us for attention, we're not going to do what they want because they're giving us an order. Instead, we're going to give them a counter order. Tell them to sit. If they're already sitting, ask them to sit over here or to lay down. And if they do that within 3 seconds, they'll reach over, pet them under the chin, and say sit or crash or whatever the word is for whatever the action. Don't teach them to shake, and don't practice the shake. When a dog jumps up on you, it's a way of claiming you, and the shake just confuses the heck out of them. So sitting or lying down. As soon as they sit or lie down, we pet them on the chin, say sit or lie down, and then you pet them as much or as little as you want, from once to an infinity number of pets. After a while, the dog will realize I can't tell them what to do. I have to ask, and I have to prepay for the privilege of attention. So they come over and they sit down, then we pet them. And we're petting them after that. That's really more passive training. But basically, we're conditioning them, saying, this is the behavior that I like. Right now, they think this is the behavior you like, you like me scratching at you because you pet me when I scratch and tell you what to do. So after a while, they're prepaying. That shows a follower's mindset as opposed to a leader's mindset. Now, if you come in the room and you suspect someone's petting without a purpose, the dog's standing up and someone's petting, it's very common for people to forget. Say the word paycheck. The person who's petting has to immediately stop petting, even if they were doing it right. Tells the dog to sit. If the dog sits, they pet on our shin, say sit, and then they say, hey, babe, I actually asked the dog to sit, but thanks for reminding me. Because we don't realize how often we do it. Now, if the dog doesn't sit within that 3-second window, play hard to get. Show your dog, hey, I got plenty of other things to do. I'm not missing out on petting you. because they think the world revolves around us petting them. So if you pick up your phone and start going through emails and they start whimpering, why don't say shush, don't say anything. Hey, you had your opportunity. Wait for them to disengage, then give them the counter order again, tell them to sit. And even if you want to pet the dog, still tell the dog to sit. You'll do it at times you'll forget to do it, but the more you do this, if you get in a habit of petting with a purpose, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session where 3 important things happen. First of all, it increases the dog's respect for you as an authority figure because it's asking versus telling. Number 2, it's boosting the dog's self-esteem and confidence because instead of being lavish attention for no reason, it earned it. And number 3, it helps them practice sitting or laying down. Crash is something they both need to learn anyway, so it gives you an opportunity to practice without even really meaning to practice. And so that's petting with a purpose. Passive training is waiting for the dogs to organically offer the behavior that you want. So name all of your individual toys. Every time they bring you the zebra, call it Stripey or Zebra or Jack White or whatever you want to say. Name all the toys. All balls can be balls, all bones can be bones, but giving them each individual names can be really helpful. When my dogs take a drink of water, I say agua. I have some of my clients say happy hour, whatever you want. They don't need to be taught to drink, but what if you're on a hike somewhere and there's a stream and you're not carrying water, you're not going to be water for 3 hours. Being able to tell your dog to do that creates a stronger, richer dynamic between the two of you. So every time I would like you to come up with a command word for each dog to eat. So a separate word, your favorite meal, maybe sushi and pasta or whatever you want to say. I'm guessing they'd both be Italian names. But basically, every time that she hears the word lasagna, there's food in her mouth. She hears lasagna, there's no food in her mouth. And eventually, you won't have to block them from coming out. They'll just wait voluntarily outside the room until you invite them in to get permission to eat. So every time they sit on their own, pet them and say sit. Every time they lay down, pet them and say crash. Every time they come to you, pet them and say come. Every time they potty, what is their word for potty?
Potty.
Say potty. Every time they go to the dog bed, call it Florence. Come up with another one. Maybe call that one Rome or whatever it is in the bedroom. So this way we can direct it and use those treat. Remember, we toss the treats, we leave a treat, or put the dog on, leave the door, lure the dog on, tell them to sit or lie down, and then give them a treat and say the word, whatever the word is for the dog bed. And then that's the first stage. The second stage is when they go there on their own, have a treat with you, pull it out of your pocket and throw it. So now every time I come here to the dog bed, it rains treats. This is the best place to be. And anytime we take away the furniture, the dog bed, it's really powerful for that. Now, they like to sleep with their guardians. They like to sleep right in the middle of their guardians. And this one likes to sleep underneath the covers. And they're both, I'm telling you, they're both little heat machines. So the guardians, I think, are going to transition them to sleeping on the bed, off the bed, on a dog bed instead of on the bed. They're going to try to jump back up because they jump on your bed. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do that, I would just go to Amazon, get like a baby gate, puppy playpen is what they call them. Make sure it has a door in it. Don't lift them over it. Make sure they always go through the door. And then put the dog bed in there. Get an extra dog bed. Come up with a different name for that one. The first 2 days that you're doing is going to be the hardest. So I would walk them, do it on a weekend, walk them 6 times that day, pull out the laser, set up a play date with their buddies, that they just go for a car ride, just keep them awake as long as you can. And then when you go to sleep, no matter what happens, don't exhale, don't trash, don't tell them to shut up because they're trying to get any response from you. If you make them good and tired, they're probably more likely to want to do it. And what you might want to do is set this up for success by going over there, laying on your bed, and just pulling out a treat. Every time you jump on the bed, throw the treat onto the dog bed and then come up with a name for that. So maybe do that all this week. And then when you get to the weekend, then Amazon will probably deliver the little deal. And then and Groupon, remember, get light gray, white, or light cream for the dog bed, no pattern, and try to get one that doesn't have a lot of grooves in it so that the treat just can sit up there on top. So I would suggest getting one that they can both hang out in together. I'm guessing that they do, but that's one of the things I enjoy, seeing all 4 of my dogs sleep together in a dog pile. Let me see what else. Carrots and broccoli ward off 2 types of cancer. Not an issue with these dogs, but I give my dogs little baby carrots or regular carrots as bones once a week, and once a month I take broccoli and I demolish on top of their food. It's prophylactic. It helps ward off types of cancers prevalent for dogs. Now, let me see. The video that we did above is with the Vram pet robot. It was a little bit convoluted, so I'm going to summarize that really quickly. So what you want to do for the counter conditioning, because you're not going to have a robot, is basically you're going to find a dog, and remember the distance is going to be vary depending on that dog's energy level. So you're going to find a distance and do this with them separately, where whichever dog will sit and take a treat when they can see the other dog. If they won't sit or take the treat, you're too close. Once you get to that distance, then basically just wait, and if it's staring the whole time, you might have the person move around a corner, then have them walk up. As soon as your dog looks at the other dog, and then you click, and then they look up at you and give them a treat. So what we're saying is when you look at the dog, you get a treat. Once your dog starts, the other dog appears, your dog immediately looks up to you, and you get 5 of those in a row. I'd use the same joke, but you've already heard it twice. So basically, after you get 5 in a row, then move 1 step closer and practice at that distance. And then 1 step closer. When you get to the point where the dog barely will take the treat or won't sit, you're getting close to the breaking point. Remember, the whole point of this, they cannot react whatsoever. Take note of whatever the distance is, come back and practice it again, but maybe 1 step beyond more distance than what you practiced before. Eventually get to the point where you'll be right next to them. Now, you can also use the same technique for kids who they do not like. So find a playground somewhere where you can have enough distance, and be careful, because if the kids start running towards you to, doggy, pick up your dog and just walk away. You don't want to have a friendly fire or a problem with that. So the idea is you're at a far enough distance where they can see the dogs and relax, as she's relaxing a little bit. Say, look at the kids, click, and I get a treat. And I would come up with a word, call it niños or children or whatever you want to say. So now looking at kids gets me a treat as well. So you can also use that focus exercise if you're on a walk and kids are walking nearby and you can tell the dogs are nervous or anxious. Focus and then turn and walk away from them. But the idea for this is we want to create some positive associations with these things that dogs don't like, probably just don't understand. And a lot of this is contributing because they think that they're in charge of the humans, but they don't think that humans are listening to them. They also think that humans are gullible, and these other dogs are going to take advantage, so they have to be really voracious and make sure the dogs don't get close enough. This will help you get them closer and closer and create positive associations every time they see them. And eventually it gets to the point where I'm right next to these kids. Good things are happening. All right. Let me think. Is there anything else we want to cover? I went over the 4 escalating consequences, also a video for that. We also did a leadership exercise. I would suggest you guys practice that. You're going to see this like tomorrow or the next day whenever you watch it. But I would do the leadership exercise again, and that's what I call it. And there's videos to show you how to do that as well. So remember, when the dog is looking at, trying to sneak away. So you throw the first one and get down and make sure you drop the second one between your feet and drop it from about 2 inches and stand up straight and keep your hips pointed at the dog. Yes, that'd be you. And then if she takes a step forward, you can hiss or you can step towards her as you need to. And eventually it gets to the point where she sits, you take a step back. Or if she's not sitting, they're standing, wait for them to look away, then look at you, and then you take a small step backwards. They look away, look at you, take another small step backwards until you get about 10 feet away or you're close to back in the corner. Make sure you always save 1 step, so when they sit, you take a big step backwards right after they sit. That's an important one. And as soon as they lay down, turn sideways, be about 3 feet away, tap the floor, let them come over and get it, say the word booty. You can change that to a different word if you don't like booty. I won't be offended. And eventually what you'll see is your dogs will start sitting and laying down faster and faster and faster once they understand what's going on. And we're teaching them that challenging the human is not going to work, but surrendering to the human and giving into the exercise gets me a reward. And there's nothing bad that's happening, so why wouldn't I give it up and then get more rewards? And it helps you practice those escalating consequences and helps them practice listening to you. Now, if I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. So in our society, we call and complain. I don't care how long it is after the session. If you have questions, I want you to call me. I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number right after we get done with this video. Program it in your phone. Put down doggone problems because you will forget my name. I have that effect on pretty women and musicians. But basically, anytime you have questions, just shoot me a quick text. I can usually help with videos or text. We might need to set up a follow-up session and work specifically with a dog reactivity. I'd like to wait at least a month for that and see how they're doing on the rest of the stuff first. Also, one last little tip. This video, watch this one once a week for the next couple of weeks. It'll just help. There'll be little things that you forget that'll help spur your memory. And if anything stops working, let me know. All right, well, this little Mexican jumping bean. Oh, yes, are we buddies now? She's pretty relaxed now. Yeah. This is Layla, this is Zooey, and this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.